Okay. Everybody ready?
Put a second one on his tab.
Call the meeting to order.
Williams. Nichols.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Bott.
Yes.
Lesh.
Yes.
Tonight, first, we have a presentation, and I want to say a few words before we start. The presentation, Smoke-Free Mexico Committee has asked to make a presentation this evening, and we realize that this is obviously from the turnout tonight. This is an issue where there are strong feelings on both sides. This will not be a debate. The council has not taken a position on this issue. We are here to listen and to review the options. And so what I'm going to do is ask Smoke-Free Mexico, for one reason, they have spoken to each member of the council, and so we've had a preview. I'm going to ask them to limit their presentation to 10 minutes, and then there will be about 5 minutes for council questions, and council questions only at that point. Others who wish to speak will be given a chance toward the end of the meeting at public comments time. So, Smoke-Free Mexico Committee.
Mr. Mayor and Councilman, on behalf of the Smoke-Free Mexico Committee, I appreciate the opportunity to make this presentation. We are here tonight to make a formal request of the council that it pass a smoke-free ordinance for the city of Mexico, Missouri. The ordinance we are proposing would prohibit smoking in all public buildings and all workplaces. Smoking in a person's own home or anywhere out of doors in Mexico would still be permitted. This ordinance would also apply to e-cigarettes, otherwise known as vapor cigarettes, because their similarity to cigarettes in size and shape would make monitoring for compliance more difficult. It should also be noted that secondhand nicotine vapor is not much improvement over secondhand smoke. The Surgeon General's report of 2004 clearly identified secondhand smoke as a health hazard which could not be eliminated by any existing ventilation system. Secondhand smoke, the report went on to say, affects persons of all ages. In children, the rates of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, and severe asthma attacks increase. In adults, the rates of heart attack and lung cancer increase. In communities where effective air quality ordinances are implemented, these conditions decline significantly. In February of this year, an air quality survey was conducted here in Mexico. 4 venues which allowed smoking were compared to 4 venues which did not. The 4 non-smoking venues showed no harm. All 4 of the venues which allowed smoking either showed a definite health hazard or extreme harm. The fact that only a few lighted cigarettes produce these toxic levels of cigarette smoke demonstrates, I believe, the real problem associated with smoking in a confined space. I would also ask the council to consider the plight of the employee of a venue who allows smoking. That person is subject to 60 times the level of particulate matter deemed safe for a human being by the EPA. This results for that person in an increased risk of cardiac difficulty and a risk of lung cancer which is 4 times that of the non-smoking citizen. The committee believes that no citizen of Mexico, Missouri should have to jeopardize their health in order to feed their family. I have heard that a referendum has been proposed to settle this issue. It, however, would only postpone the matter. This issue cannot be delegated. It is an issue for this council to decide. That concludes my introductory comments. I would like now to introduce another member of the committee, Sandy Qualls.
Sandy, you will still be under this 10-minute limit. I mean,
Okay, I'm just,
okay.
I have a personal story. One day I was going to Dr. Taylor. Please bear with me. This is personal to me. One day I was going to Dr. Taylor, and I asked him, how could we go about getting smoke-free Mexico? He wanted to know why. I have a grandson, Trenton. He's 5 years old now. At this time, Trenton has alpha-1 disease. This is a liver-lung disease. This is incurable. Our worst nightmare for Trenton right now is smoke. Cigarette smoke is the worst kind of smoke for my grandson. When I see someone coming at us with a cigarette, I go the other way. We all do. We don't want him to ever be around cigarette smoke. At this time when I went to Dr. Taylor, my son and my daughter-in-law could never go out to eat in Mexico. There wasn't a restaurant that was smoke-free. They couldn't go as a family. So they would have to pick up the phone and call Dewey and I, could you watch Trenton for us so we could go out and eat? It was really sad that for them to go out to eat as a family, they had to go to Columbia. You know, they had to go out of town. And, you know, I thought to myself, how could Columbia and Jefferson City and these big cities be smoke-free, but Mexico could not be smoke-free? That is why I went to Dr. Taylor. When Trenton was diagnosed with alpha-1 when he was about a year old, we have to take this child to St. Louis Children's Hospital. He goes there once a year, still does for the rest of his life. He has to have a blood test. Have you ever been with a child that knows what's going to happen when he goes back behind those doors? He is screaming at the top of his lungs, no, no. His daddy and his grandpa go back there with him. I sit in the waiting room with Mama, and we cry because that poor child is having to do this. And then we have to wait until the doctor gets the results to see, has this alpha-1 kicked in? Because when it does, have you ever seen anybody die, be on a deathbed from having emphysema? My father-in-law had emphysema. He worked at the brick plant. I could not imagine seeing a child laying in bed with emphysema. And I beg you to please, we have to pass this. I realize there's more restaurants in Mexico that are smoke-free, but there's still too many facilities in Mexico. We have to do this for our children. And I ask you, if you imagine a child or a grandchild never being able to play in a bonfire or a campfire, if any of you go camping, my grandson can never play in a bonfire, can never play in a, of course he should play in a bonfire, but he can never play in a campfire, is what I'm trying to say. He can never roast hot dogs, never roast marshmallows. But this is something that we can control. We can control that kind of smoke, but we can't control cigarette smoke. So we're asking you, please help us. Help us get Mexico smoke-free. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcy, how much time do we have? Okay.
How much?
So,
2 minutes. I just have a few quick statistics for the council. According to a study done by the Missouri Department of Health and Human Services, 78.5% of citizens of Mexico, Missouri do not smoke. That's a very large percentage. We have 26 Missouri communities that have gone smoke-free up to now. Our committee has been gathering signatures, and we have 2 book full of pages of signatures just showing their support for a smoke-free ordinance. Now, these books contain 1,147 signatures. So that we can get a little comparison about what that means. In the April 2014 election, countywide, there were 1,280 voters. So this is a large section of our voting community that would like to see the smoke-free ordinance. And we are, as a group, asking the council to take the initiative to do that for us.
Thank you.
Is there any time left?
There's 1 minute left. And I'm Stan Cowan. I'm with University of Missouri-Columbia School of Medicine. And I do want to say that oftentimes you'll hear about rights. But I also want you to balance rights with responsibilities. And it is incumbent upon government to get involved with businesses when it involves public safety, public health, the common good. And we do see in communities that have gone smoke-free a tremendous reduction in medical emergencies, including heart attacks and the like. So I'm going to leave you with 20 seconds to spare.
Thank you. All right, are there council questions for any of these folks?
Of your 1,100 some odd people that signed your petition, how many of them voted last time of the voting? Did you ask that question?
No, we
Okay.
did not, it's not a petition, so that
Okay.
question was not asked.
Because the way it sounded, it kind of sounded like you were trying to say that there are almost many people that signed that voted. So I thought you were trying to insinuate they were the ones that
Well, we were looking at a
voted.
cross-section of the
Okay.
community, and this, about the same percentage of people who agree to a smoke-free environment, that same number of people voted in an election. So we thought that our signatures reflected a good cross-section of the community.
Did I misunderstand? I probably did. I apologize if I did. I want to clarify a point. You said 26 communities in Missouri have gone smoke-free?
Smoke-free.
There are 114 counties in Missouri. Is that by county, or is that just by city, or do we
By
know?
city. By city.
By city. Okay, thank you for your clarification.
I have a question about the ordinance. Is the draft ordinance, I believe, that you sent me, is that the one you're proposing?
I think that's what, we had sent in an ordinance which actually applies to the state of California, but in some ways it's more restrictive than what we need, and it really should be evaluated by perhaps the city manager and others to see how that would be applicable to Mexico. But I think the critical part is that the smoking should be prohibited from the interior of public buildings and workplaces. That's the main core of that.
Yeah, I read through that again this afternoon, and I wanted to make for sure what ordinance you're proposing, because the one I read this afternoon, which is the one I got from the lady, I forget your name. Diane. Yes, Diane sent me. That ordinance would prevent someone from smoking in their vehicle if they drove up to a bank teller. So if we drove up to one of the bank tellers here in town and you were smoking in your vehicle, you could not, because that smoke would presumably get within 15 to 20 feet of the building. And they, of course, they opened the thing and the smoke would come in. And so that would prevent someone from smoking in their vehicle.
I don't think this proposed ordinance includes that provision. It would not include in cars. Although I've just heard recently that the British Parliament has introduced legislation to prohibit smoking in cars, but that's not part of our.
That's not your proposal. Okay.
Okay. Anything more? Okay, thank you. Next, we have the approval of minutes of the May 12, 2014 regular meeting.
Make motion to approve.
Second.
Nichols?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Bott?
Yes.
Lesh?
Yes.
Under resolutions, bill number 2014-33, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into agreements with the Mexico School District to assist in providing additional police services to the school district. Reading and passage. Bruce?
Yes, Your Honor, this is the annual renewal with the Mexico Public School District for providing school resource officers in the schools, and I will turn to Chief Susan Rocket to cover the details. Or was Roger going to? No?
Roger was going to.
No?
But we haven't changed anything.
Okay. Would you go ahead and make
We
some
don't
comments on
propose
it then?
As I mentioned in our work session report, that's going very well for us. We've got very positive comments, very productive. The 1.5 that we have in there, and it seems to be working well for us, and we don't propose any changes or alterations to the agreement.
This agreement would be effective starting July 1, 2014, and be in effect for the next school year. And therefore, at this time, we would recommend that the city enter into the agreement with the Mexico School District for the agreement providing 1 full-time and 1 part-time school resource officer. And again, the school does help us provide funding for this.
I move for reading of bill number 2014-33.
Second.
Nichols?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Bott?
Yes.
Lesh?
Yes. A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into agreements with the Mexico School District to assist in providing additional police services to the school district, whereas the Mexico School District desires to contract with the City of Mexico for 1 full-time and 1 part-time school resource officer to provide for the safety protection of the students in the public school system, and whereas the City of Mexico by and through its Public Safety Department desires to assist in the effort by providing additional police services at all public school district locations. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Mexico, Missouri as follows. Section 1. The city manager is hereby authorized to execute agreements with the Mexico School District to assist in providing additional police services to the school district. Section 2. The resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after the time of passage. I move for passage of bill number 2014-33.
Second.
Nichols?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Bott?
Yes.
Lesh?
Yes.
Next is bill number 2014-34, a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign a consent to assignment of lease, waiver of right of first refusal, and consent to sale. Up for reading and passage. Bruce?
Yes, Your Honor. Approximately a little over a year ago, we begun changing how we dealt with private hangars at the airport, whereby allowing the tenants to actually purchase their hangar and then have a land lease for the city to have that hangar on the grounds. What that did is it maintained the maintenance of those hangars with the owner versus being reverted to the city. And there was a cost for buying the lease and then a monthly rental. As a part of those agreements, we did allow the opportunity that if, for some reason, some private individual wished to sell that hangar, that the city had first right of refusal. And so this is part of that, and to cover the details of the hangar that we're referencing in the contract, I will turn to Russell Runge.
Yes, as Bruce had mentioned, this is a sale of an existing hangar, and as you guys recall, we created a formula to be able to go back and create the dollar amount for sale. We did that. We made that sale with John and Suzanne Baker October of last year, and they purchased that hangar B116 as that lease for 20 years at a rate of $70 a month. And then we created a land lease on top of that, which required the city to have a right of first refusal on the hangar when it was offered for sale. They've decided to sell. the agreement to sell is to Stewart Flying Services, or Flying LLC. And to meet the requirements, the original lease, the city manager will need to sign a consent of assignment, a waiver of the right of first refusal, and the consent to sell. Staff recommends the council proceed with reading and passage of the attached resolution. Any questions, Dan, Steve? Pretty cut and dry.
What impact does this have on the list that you have? It seems to me like this would be a potential way to bypass the list.
It's a private hangar, so that it was their opportunity to be able to sell it. And we just have the land lease that the building sits upon. What originally the way that the city held these was that you, the private citizen, would build the building and then lease lease it from us. And then after 20 years, it would revert back to the city if the city decided to take it. What Bruce and we discussed doing was allowing these individuals to be able to purchase these hangars out based upon the formula, and then continue to pay a land lease with us. Then we don't get stuck with a property that's 20 years old and needs a lot of maintenance. And that's the reason behind that.
Okay.
These are the private hangars, these are not the city-owned hangars.
Okay,
So
thank you.
therefore, it does not affect that list.
Okay, I was wondering because we kept referring back to a list all the time, and thank you.
Second.
I'll make a motion, I read bill number 2014-34.
Second.
Nichols?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Bud?
Yes.
Flesh?
Yes.
Bill number 2014-34, a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign a contract to assignment of lease, waiver of rights of first refusal, and consent to sale. Whereas John and Suzanne Baker have decided to sell hangar B-116 and the city does not have any interest in purchasing the hangar, and whereas John and Suzanne Baker have entered into the agreement for the sale of hangar B-116 to Stewart Flying Service, Stewart Flying LLC. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Mexico, Missouri as follows. Section 1, that city manager sign a consent to assignment of lease, waiver of right of first refusal, and consent to sale on hangar B-116. Section 2, this resolution shall be in full force and effect from at the time of passage. Move for passage bill number 214-34.
Second.
Nichols?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Bud?
Yes.
Flesh?
Yes.
Next is Bill number 2014-35, a resolution authorizing the execution of a land lease of a parcel of land at the Mexico Memorial Airport with Stewart Flying LLC. Up for reading and passage.
Your Honor, now that we have waived our right to purchase the building and allow this purchase to go through, this would authorize a land lease and to cover the details of the lease and the time frame. But once again, I'll turn to Russell Roy.
Yes, as I mentioned, the lease is for 20 years. But, after the 20-year period, it would be 5-year increments after that. Currently, it's set at $70. It's based upon the size of the hangar itself, and it will go up incrementally after a 5-year period. So, all right.
Questions?
I move for reading of Bill 2014-35.
Second.
Nichols?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Bud?
Yes.
Flesh?
Yes.
Bill number 2014-35, a resolution authorizing the execution of a lease of a parcel of land at the Mexico Memorial Airport with Stewart Flying LLC. Whereas Stewart Flying LLC and the City of Mexico desire to lease the land for hangar B-116 for an initial 20-year period, with the proposed lease being reevaluated every 5 years thereafter. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Mexico as follows, Mexico, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the city manager of the City of Mexico, Missouri is hereby authorized to execute a lease agreement for a parcel of land at the Mexico Memorial Airport with Stewart Flying LLC. Section 2, this resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after the time of its passage. Move for passage of Bill number 2014-35.
Second.
Nichols?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Bud?
Yes.
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 Next is Bill number 2014-36, a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign a contract with Horner and Schifrin for wastewater analysis services. For reading and passage. Bruce.
Yes, Your Honor. This past February, the city received notice of violation from the Missouri Department of Natural Resources regarding the city's discharge at the wastewater plant exceeding the permits allowable for copper. Currently, the permissible levels for copper are higher in our drinking water than what we're allowed to discharge from the sewer plant. And currently, the level of copper is higher in our water. And therefore, we have to take a look at how we can meet these levels. And I will, at this time, turn to Kenzie Russell to discuss the services and the process that we are looking at doing in order to be able to meet these requirements.
As Bruce noted, we've had a notice of violation because we exceeded our permitted amount of copper for the last couple of quarters in our quarterly reporting for our discharge from the plant. We may be a victim of our own success in some regards. Some of it may be due to the drought as well, but as we reduce the amount of stormwater in our system, the I&I, the drought conditions and all, there is less dilution to the wastewater flows. Our copper permit limit also changed with the new permit that we were issued after construction of the improvements at the wastewater plant as well, and it did go down. Our current permit is 16 micrograms per liter. That's what we're allowed. We have been testing at about 26 micrograms per liter, and this is a total copper test. The initial notice of violation sent us on a search through the collection system to see if we had a point source that perhaps one of our industries, some way that we could control it before it got into our discharge or before into our system. We did not find that, and so now in discussion with DNR and with Horner and Schifrin and other folks, we are tending to think that the source is our drinking water, which is allowed to have 1,300 micrograms per liter. They currently run between 56 and 133, so they're running roughly twice the amount of copper in the drinking water than we can in wastewater. And the philosophy that DNR has behind that is that we're all large organisms, so we can manage a higher level than the small organisms that live in the creeks and the streams. And so the discharge has to be less to accommodate the smaller organisms. The end result of all of this is that we need to do a metal translator study, which would actually examine how much dissolved copper there is and what the impact of, and that's the part of the copper that has the impact on living organisms, and how that ratio would affect the Salt River, which is what we discharge to. Horner and Schifrin has been working with us a number of years. They're familiar with both our pre-treatment for our industries as well as our permit requirements and our treatment system. We have a proposed contract from them not to exceed $27,000 to assist us in doing this metal translator study and getting the reports to DNR, where if the science would show validity, we would be able to get our permit limit raised so that we wouldn't be exceeding it. The other scenario would be that we would have to do a chemical additive at the plant, a new treatment process to precipitate out the copper. That would be an ongoing expense that chemical treatment is not a cheap process, but that would be our other alternative. So we feel like it's worth the study to see if we can actually raise the limit and not be in violation. So we're proposing that we proceed with a contract with Horner and Schifrin for that study. Confusing?
Clear as mud.
Well, common sense says if we start out with our drinking water at 56 to 133 micrograms per liter, and they only allow us 16 micrograms per liter, we're fighting a losing battle.
To some extent, that's true. Roughly 75% of our flow is from our drinking water. However, we do precipitate some of that out as the turbidity, the particles that's in the wastewater will tend to bind some of that copper to them. It goes into our biosolids. We have to monitor that copper before, as we put it on farm fields, and not exceed levels there. But if you can get that dissolved copper, and the system just by nature does take some of that out. So we are able to reduce it, obviously, somewhat, just by the nature of the system. It is a challenge, though.
I'd say the least.
Does American Water add copper, or is that just
No,
coming
it's-
from directly from the
It's
wells?
there naturally.
There naturally.
Yeah.
So if it's there naturally, I don't understand. Something's funny here.
DNR expects us, Ron, to make the water better than
Yeah.
when we put it back than when we got it.
You know, there's
If you've seen our demonstration at Earth Day, Goldie likes our discharge, the little goldfish that swim around.
You know, there are places where the water comes up out of the ground automatically in nature. So I don't understand this one.
We
But-
will, as part of the study, we will sample the call it the natural water in the river to see what natural level of copper is there. Then we'll look at the ratio of dissolved copper to total copper in our discharge and compare that. And that's it goes through some rather complex formulas to arrive at what your permit limit is.
I don't know if I want to do that or not. I don't think we want to start treating the rivers too.
Kenzie, it's not indicated here, how does this expenditure of $27,000 affect our budget? What's the impact?
We do have monies, we have a line item for professional services that we budget for, and this would be covered in that line item.
There's sufficient funds in there to
There
cover this,
is.
is that correct? Okay. Thank you.
Well, I move that we read bill number 2014-36.
Second.
Nichols?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Bott?
Yes.
Lesh?
Yes. Resolution authorizing the city manager to sign a contract with Horner Schifrin for wastewater analysis service. Whereas the City of Mexico has been issued a notice of violation by the Missouri Department of Natural Resources for exceeding the copper permit limits in their wastewater discharge, and whereas the City of Mexico has not found a point source for copper in the collection system, and whereas a metal translator study is necessary to support a request for a change in permit limits, whereas the contract with Horner and Schifrin is $27,000. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Mexico, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the City of Mexico, by accepting this agreement, is authorizing the city manager to sign a contract with Horner and Schifrin for wastewater analysis services. Section 2, this resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after the time of its passage. Move for passage of bill number 2014-36.
Second.
Nichols?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Bott?
Yes.
Lesh?
Yes.
Next is bill number 2014-37, a resolution authorizing a contract with Duke's Root Control for chemical root control in the city's sanitation sewer collection system. Up for reading and passage. Bruce.
Yes, Your Honor. As a part of our sanitary sewer collection system improvements and plans for this year, we did budget for what we call root control. And we do have large amounts of tree roots that do get into the system, find water, create problems as far as blockages, and so we need to deal with those. And to cover what we are looking at doing to control those, I will once again turn to Kenzie Russell.
We've spent actually a couple of years researching root control, and there are several methodologies. Mechanical, of course, would be one way, cut them out. Chemical is another way. There are a number of chemicals on the market that do affect root control. We were interested in finding a chemical that would not have upset on the biological systems in the wastewater treatment plant, in part because some of our larger lines, 18-inch lines and all, that are close to the plant are some of those that have some of the heaviest root intrusion to them. And we discovered some of this problem when we were doing some of the slip lining work, and needed to do very heavy mechanical root control and removal before we could do the slip lining. In looking at all of it, we determined that the proprietary system that Duke's Root Control has was the best, in that it would not have an impact on our biological processes. It also has a residual effect. In talking with Gladstone and Columbia, we find that the residual effect can be 3 to 4 years, perhaps longer, with the control. It works essentially by inserting a tube, if you will, in the sewer that creates a foam that goes completely around the pipe, so that roots coming in from the top are caught or covered with chemical. Some of the other systems work just by adding chemical to the flow, and of course that only affects however full the sewer pipe is at the time. So this foaming system gets better coverage, and it essentially shrinks the root, it dries it up, and it flushes through the system. That was our other concern, was what happens to the roots, because we don't need root balls occurring and creating blockages either. And this is not a problem with this particular system. The system was bid through the Missouri-Kansas Compact, and so we are piggybacking on that bid, if you will, as well as it being a proprietary system and to the particular chemical and all. We're proposing a contract of $30,271.50, and that will treat a little over 4 miles of our sewer system for root control. There is a guarantee for the project, or for the process. They will come back and reevaluate the lines. If there's been regrowth, they will retreat at no cost to us. And then the retreatment is also guaranteed for a period, I believe it was 2 years in the contract. So we feel like it's a fair price for a product that in our research does well. Columbia, Gladstone, Lee Summit all are using it and gave good reports on it.
How many miles of sewer line do we have?
It's very similar to miles of street. I think actually we're at about 80 miles of street, and I believe we're in the neighborhood of 85 miles of sewer.
It's like 20 years then.
If we do it at 4 at a time, however, a lot of that does not have root intrusion in it. I mean, this occurs where primarily where we're going through brushy areas, heavily forested areas. There are spot areas where maybe someone has a big maple tree in their front yard. But the really heavy intrusion occurs where you have it going through a more forested area.
How does that go through root wads?
Pardon?
How does that, you say it's a round circle that foams?
They insert a hose, a small diameter hose, and there's a nozzle on the
So
end of the
just
hose
sprays
that
it.
foams it out.
Okay.
You know, years ago, they put copper sulfate in.
Yes. And Greg, that is still one of the chemicals that is used. The active chemical is Diquat, and it is not taken up into the tree itself where the copper sulfate is, and so this should have less impact on the actual tree. It clears our roots, which we want to have, but we shouldn't be damaging any of the trees.
Thank you. I make a motion, I read bill number 2014-37.
Second.
Nichols?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Bott?
Yes.
Lesh?
Yes.
Bill number 2014-37, a resolution authorizing a contract with Duke's Root Control for chemical root control of the city's sanitation sewer collection system. Whereas the city has a need to control root growth in the sanitary sewer system, and whereas Duke's Root Control has proprietary chemical root control methodology, and whereas Duke's Root Control was low bidder under Missouri-Kansas Procurement Cooperative. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Mexico, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the City of Mexico, by accepting this agreement, is authorizing the city manager to sign a contract with Duke's Root Control for chemical root control of the city's sanitation and sewer collection system. Section 2, the resolution shall be in full force and effect from after the time of passage. Move for passage of bill number 2014-37.
Second.
Nichols?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Bott?
Yes.
Lesh?
Yes.
Under ordinances, bill number 2014-38, an ordinance accepting an ingress and egress easement and maintenance agreement from Jacob E. Fager II for the maintenance and repair of North Clark Sanitary Sewer Lift Station. Up for 2 readings by title only and passage. Bruce?
Yes, Your Honor, this ordinance is to accept a 20-foot easement for the purposes to access to the property for maintenance and repairs of the North Clark Sanitary Lift Station. To cover the details of its location and the easement, I will once again turn to Kenzie Russell.
I promise, as far as I know, this is the last sewer item that I have tonight. We have had a lift station up on North Clark, Fager Trailer Court there for some time. The force main and the lift station are on easements. The intention at the time originally, I think, was for access to occur down the same easement that the force main is on. However, the topography really doesn't allow that, and from time to time, as things have moved around up there, it has sometimes been blocked. With Mr. Fager's assistance and blessing, we have gotten an access easement that will allow us to use the road into the trailer court, and then to build a small portion of road into the lift station that'll give us all-weather access. Previously, it gets pretty muddy sometimes wintertime or in the rain because it's not an all-weather access. And so we'll be able to gravel an all-weather access into the station with this easement, and it will benefit Mr. Fager in that he'll be able to use it as well to haul the trailers in and out. So there's a quid pro quo there, and it's just trying to kind of clean up some of our maintenance operations here.
I move for reading of bill number 2014-38 by title only.
Second.
Nichols?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Bott?
Yes.
Flash.
Yes.
Bill number 2014-38, an ordinance accepting an ingress and egress easement and maintenance agreement from Jacob E. Fager II for the maintenance and repair of the North Clark Sanitary Sewer Lift Station. I move for second reading of bill number 2014-38 by title only.
Second.
Nichols.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Bott.
Yes.
Flash.
Yes.
Bill number 2014-38, an ordinance accepting an ingress and egress easement and maintenance agreement from Jacob E. Fager II for the maintenance and repair of the North Clark Sanitary Sewer Lift Station. I move for passage of bill number 2014-38.
Second.
Nichols.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Bott.
Yes.
Flash.
Yes.
In other business, we have a staff report regarding the purchase of fire apparatus, traditional pumper for the Department of Public Safety.
Your Honor, we have planned for some time for the purchase of the replacement of a fire vehicle. This will, fire pumper, it will replace a 1981 vehicle. We did send out for bids. We received 5 bids to cover the details of the bids and the selection of the vehicle with reasons for. I will turn to Chief Susan Ruck.
We have put a lot of time and consideration and information gathering into the recommendation that we have tonight, and to help, I brought our brain trust, Major Mesko and Sergeant Singer, here to help out. Major Mesko did an excellent executive summary on the bids that we did receive, and I kind of want to share that tonight, his work for him, so if he has anything you can add as you see necessary. Here were the bids, Rosenbauer being the most expensive bid, E1 the second, Tony, or I'm not sure how to pronounce that one, Schmiel, and KME, and that was the order in which we received the bids. The Schmiel bid did not meet the extruded body spec that we had asked for, and so we kind of eliminated them early on. All of these met the NFPA standards. Before I go further on that, the KME was the lowest bid. However, it had the smallest CAF system, compressed air foam system, than we requested. And in order to bring that one up to speed on what we were asking on the spec, it cost an additional $30,000. So that would have made it more expensive than the Schmiel anyway. So we took that one out of consideration too at that point. The Schmiel and the Tone were basically the same engine, the same chassis, and all that kind of thing. The service center for Schmiel is Wentzville, and the service center for the other one is in 6 hours away in Iowa. So that was the support for the Tony, which was $6,000 more and considerable distance further. So looking at the 3 engines so far, the E1 met the specs as written. The Rosenbauer appeared to have 1 2.5-inch discharge less, and they did not list the gas tank size difference as an exception to the specs. So we didn't know whatever else that maybe didn't make it through that process at all. And they also proposed a larger CAF system. The Schmiel had smaller brakes than we requested. To increase that would be another over $400. They offered a financial incentive on the chassis if it was paid upon completion, and the incentive would have been a savings of $54-something hundred. So that makes the Schmiel be $403,544 with the requested brakes. Let me go to my next slide. Okay, these are the problems that I'm talking about now. I got ahead of myself. The E1 appears to offer a little bit more cubic space than the Schmiel. But as we've listed here from what the major did in talking to some owners and users of these different products, they found that the Schmiel was not as durable. It did not have the extruded body, had smaller brakes than what we asked for, had the least amount of compartment space, and it had some cab cracks due to torque because it does not have the same kind of body as the others. Okay? There was nothing that the Schmiel had that Rosenbauer E1 had. So those things kind of took it out of the consideration. Going with the Schmiel, the KME had the smaller calf system and the $30,000 increase in price to bring it up, and then the service center being 6 hours away and having the same cab chassis, the same chassis as the Schmiel, kind of took those things out. So we went down to the Rosenbauer and the E1 as for their considerations. The Rosenbauer, as I said, had one less 2.5-inch discharge. There are some visibility issues with the cab. It had a little bit longer wheelbase, and the cross leg. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you don't know the terminology, you're not going to understand all this. But the cross leg position is the you guys know, but not everybody's going to know, as it is completely configured differently. So the Rosenbauer was kind of like the cool truck, the cool engine, but by the same cool factor also was some downsides like the limited visibility and some things like that. Because it has a wider A-post and the mirror placement is different. The cross lays are lower and behind the operator who would be on the pump panel, and it would change the position of how the cross lays are pulled off the truck and where the operator is at when that type of thing is happening on the crosswalk. The E1 has them behind the pump panel and is generally accepted height, so the operator can see them when they come off, when they're being pulled off, and yet still be protected by them because of the containers that the hose line is in when it's in front of him and on the truck. The Rosenbauer's design makes it the largest, like I said, with the longest wheelbase. It's longer than any of the other trucks that we considered. And while all the engines are bigger than what we have now, we're hoping that it contributes to access and maneuverability, but because we have some sections of town that are smaller streets and closer quarters to get around in, and if we were using that as a consideration, that would be something that would go in that category. The Rosenbauer has a bigger cab system than the E1, and they can downsize it, but that would it would only save $1,500 to downsize it. So that's with the bigger one that they're offering, the 40 SPs, would only save $15 if we wanted to downsize it. The Rosenbauer is $38,000 more expensive, but we don't see any value coming to us for $38,000. For the difference, we're not seeing $38,000 of positive difference for us. And just as a side note, the KME is the only one who wanted the trade-in of 214. So we would recommend to council that the best overall bid that we were given that met the specs and would fill our needs, it was going to be E1. We currently have an E1 truck. We deal with E1. We deal with the Banner Company on a regular basis. So we have some degree of familiarity already with them and some degree of expected service that comes with dealing with them. They're just as conveniently located as any of the other places that might be mentioned other than the one in Iowa. So that's is the recommendation that our committee brings to the council tonight. And if there's any questions that we can answer, we'd be happy to do that.
Well, one of the selling points was that when they build their truck, they build it in sections. So if you get hit, you replace one section because it's made that the hit doesn't continue through the truck. It stops right there. And when, that's the thing about wearing 2 or 3 different hats. When our truck hit our truck on a Friday night, and they had that's Little Dixie's brand new tanker hit the brand new city's rescue squad. That was on a Friday night at the wheels go around and around, and we had a big parade not the next day, but the next Saturday. So I drove the truck down to E1. They jumped on it, fixed it in about 2 or 3 hours. I mean, they're good people to work with, so.
And we've done a lot of business with them.
Your Honor, I'll confuse this just a little bit more if I can.
I don't believe that's possible.
Oh, trust me.
I said you're not going to keep up with the nomenclature if you don't know.
Actually, while the Banner fire equipment bid at $424,795 seems a bit high, it's probably the best bid. And I concur with Chief Rocket, Major Mesco, and Sergeant Singh. Toyne and Smeal both build their fire trucks with what is known as a Spartan cab. Spartan builds cabs for everybody. They don't care. They just build a cab and send it out, and they don't know where it goes. Banner, or E1, builds a custom cab. That means that you're building, that truck is theirs from the bumper to bumper. They build the cab, they build the chassis, they put the pump in, and so forth. I think that KME, if I'm not mistaken, is Kovach motor engine or motor equipment. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I'm sure they've improved over the years, but back in my day, they were not looked upon as a very expensive nor very reliable chassis. So I think that even though it is more money, you're talking about a 30-year investment here.
Correct.
We run a fire truck for 30 years, as evidenced by the fact that we're about ready to get rid of a 1981 model. Now, there are things about, I was privileged, I asked Mr. Slagle for a copy of the specs after the bids were received. There are, quite honestly, some things that I disagree with. But as far as saying which one of these trucks would be better, in my opinion, my modest, humble opinion, I think that that's not humble at all, is it, Dan? That the E1 truck is a logical choice. We have an E1 truck. It has been a good truck to the best of my knowledge. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. But I think Banner gives us pretty good service, and I recommend that we go with the Banner truck.
Well, I've been at 4 different departments and been involved with a lot of different kinds and styles and brands of truck, and I definitely feel that experience endorses Banner and E1.
By the way, E1 is the world, let's correct me again if I'm wrong, America's largest fire truck manufacturer.
They have 5 plants in Ocala, Florida, which I got to visit, and quite impressive down there. They had a bunch of engines, ladder trucks that are going to Egypt. I think they had 15 or 16 tankers going to Dallas, Texas. They just have a line, and all their plates are in Arabic. They ship them everywhere.
Yeah, they supply everything.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion we buy the E1 truck.
Thank you.
Second.
Nichols,
Yes.
Miller,
For the points and the reasons outlined, I said it's the best truck. However, I do disagree with the specs, so I vote no.
Bott,
Yes.
Lush,
Yes.
Next, we have a staff report. A request of permission to sell by public auction bid, open market, recycle, or like service surplus property belonging to the City of Mexico, an unclaimed and abandoned property in accordance with the City of Mexico purchasing policy and Section 10-42 of the Mexico City Code.
Yes, Your Honor. We purchased a new sludge vehicle to replace this 1993. So we are looking to dispose of the surplus property, and to cover the process and how we're going to do so, I will turn to Roger Haynes.
Good evening. As Bruce mentioned, we did purchase a new sludge truck for the wastewater department this year. We have two 1993 Ford L8000 sludge trucks, which of course are both 20-plus years old, and we have elected to keep one of those sludge trucks as a backup for the wastewater treatment plant. And the other 1993 Ford, we're asking authorization to sell that as surplus property. We have several venues to which we can make that sale. I'm going to recommend that we're going to make that sale through Missouri Auction Services this time. We have in the past used other services, so we've used eBay, we've used GovDeals, we've done sealed bids, we've had public auction here in town. Missouri Public Auction is located off of Route Z between Kingdom City and the City of Columbia, and I've gotten good references from the City of Columbia and Boone County on utilizing those services for auction. With that being approved tonight, then we would likely get that piece of property surplused and sold on Friday, June 27th. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
I make a motion to sell the truck.
Second?
Nichols?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Bott?
Yes.
Lesh?
Yes.
And we have appointments to various boards and commissions.
Your Honor, we have 3 different boards, commissions this evening to make appointments. The first being the Mexico Tourism Commission. There is currently 1 vacancy on this board that needs to be filled by council. We did receive 1 application from Derek Snuckensnyder expressing interest in serving on the board, and this would be to fill an unexpired term that would be expiring in September 2016. Would you like me to cover them individually, Your Honor, or all at once? We need a separate motion on each anyway, so.
Let's go ahead and do them individually then.
Okay.
I move we appoint Derek Stuckensnyder to the Mexico Tourism Commission.
Second?
Nichols?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Bott?
Yes.
Lesh?
Yes.
Okay, the next board is the Enhanced Enterprise Zone Board. Frank Marth and Craig Bledsoe's terms expired in August 2013. Each have expressed interest in additional terms. We did advertise. We've not received any other parties interested in serving on the boards. These positions are 5-year term, and they would be willing and open for an additional appointment.
Your Honor, I move to appoint, reappoint Frank Marth and Craig Bledsoe to the terms on the Enhanced Enterprise Zone Board.
Second?
Nichols?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Bott?
Yes.
Lesh?
Yes.
Your Honor, the last board is the Mexico Housing Authority Board. Robert Marty has resigned his position on the board. We have received an application from Thomas Dobbins expressing an interest in serving on the board. This position is for a 4-year term that would expire in June of 2017. This is a mayor's appointment to the Mexico Housing Authority Board.
Well, I would like to appoint Thomas Dobbins, but if I could get a motion from the council to do that, I'd appreciate it.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Bott?
Yes.
Lesh?
Yes.
Next, we have claims.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Second?
Nichols?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Bott?
Yes.
Lesh?
Yes.
Council comments.
Okay, we've had a lot of discussion earlier about the grass and brush collection site. How many days a week are they operating?
They're open on Mondays?
Monday, Friday, and Saturday.
Monday, Friday, and Saturday. I've had several people comment that that's not enough, and I think, of course, we've signed this contract, and we probably can't do anything about it this year anymore, but we need to look at probably potentially increasing that back to 3 days a week or something, and plus Saturday, if we can do that next year. And for any of you in here that are wondering why we went the way we did, is because the cost of that went from $20,000 a year to $40,000 a year, and with less service. And none of us on the council liked that, but we tried to keep our collection, waste collection, or whatever, and sanitation services billing as low as possible. So, but I think we're going to have to take another look at that next year, and hopefully maybe the price of some of this refuge that we do collect there, the wood chips and stuff like that, the value of that will go up, and they'll be able to do it for maybe the same price, provide an extra day. I don't know. Let's hope so. Keep our fingers crossed. So, at our last meeting, we had a presentation from a group concerning the smoke-free ordinance, which they did not want here in the city. And the big issue there is business rights, government telling small business people what they can and can't do in their business. So we have, we've of course heard the group tonight from Smoke Free Mexico, and this is an issue that's has two sides to it, as you all know. And I would suggest that, since we don't have an ordinance here in front of us, that maybe we get some folks to sit down and talk about what we can do for the city of Mexico in terms of a smoke-free ordinance of some kind. Maybe not necessarily the California ordinance, but something that will meet the needs of all of our citizens. That means that maybe one side may have to give a little bit while the other side gives a little bit, so we can get something started in here in Mexico, because I don't think no one wants to see someone die because of the smoke, but we also do not want to infringe on our business people either. We want people to start up small businesses in Mexico. So I would suggest that we, if at all possible, maybe that we have, a couple representatives from each group sit down with city manager and maybe a council member and see what we can work out. Maybe start with one of the local smoke-free ordinances in one of the local communities around here. Maybe it's the Jeff City one or the Columbia one, or I think Fulton has one, and see what we can do with that, and work it back to something that we might be able to adopt here in Mexico. That's kind of long-winded, isn't it? But I think that's what we need to do. I told this story a while ago. I was at a retirement party the other day, and the husband and wife were arguing with each other. One wanted smoke-free, and the other was a small businessman, and he didn't want it. So when you got husband and wife arguing at each other, I think there's emotions on both sides of this. So I think we really need to look at something that we can all feel good about for our community.
Councilman Nichols?
Well, I'd like to thank all of you all for coming. I recognize almost everybody out there. Got friends on both sides. Mexico over the year has gone from when you used to be able to smoke in the hospital. How many people remember that? Ashtrays in the bed, ashtrays in the hallway. The town has come a long way. My recollection, I think we've got Jackson Street, Liberty Street, the dugout, and the bowling alley, the only four places you can smoke at. So Mexico's done a lot of, coming toward non-smoking, but it's all been done without city council interference. I believe that you all have good intentions, and I agree with health hazards and all that, but I think you would have a better time taking your masses to the businesses. And, you know, if you go in a place and you tell the owner that I'm not coming back to non-smoking, there's been several businesses that have shut down here in town and reopened as non-smoking, and some of them just quit smoking, just stay with non-smoking. I believe that council's job, I know that everybody wants to be healthy, and we don't want to kill anybody. But I believe the council's job is to grow Mexico in businesses, not to tell business what they can do to get them here, because we don't want to run businesses. We have a hard enough time running a sewer treatment plant. We're just out of businesses. And when we can't keep the copper, when DNR thinks that our streams are safer than our drinking water, that just blows me away. Anyway, thank y'all for coming. On another note, the ditch on Francis Street, I'm thinking about taking a shovel and opening it myself. Every time I drive by, I feel so sorry for that guy.
Go ahead.
With his backyard floods.
Kenzie, have you made progress with that?
I know
I think I
that
will.
Jim has talked with M&M about it, but I don't know what the specific plan is.
Okay.
I'll have a ledger follow me out there tomorrow with a shovel and that's all I've got.
Mayor, I did not mean to mislead anybody in my comments earlier about the fire truck, and I'll explain them just a bit. In 1981, when we purchased a fire truck, it was ordered green, yellow-green. Still sitting over there today. That's one we want to get rid of. I had a number of people comment to me, what will it be when it ripens? What on earth is it? Why did you do that? And can we fire somebody? I was a lieutenant at that time. I had no control over it, but I had to listen to it for years. A few years later, when we purchased the aerial ladder truck, I guess in '91, I had to appear before the city council and speak to the thing, and the only question that the council asked me is, what color is it going to be? I said red. And they said, correct. So I knew I had passed. When the new truck was purchased, it was red. Our tradition now is red. But one of the things that I disagreed in the specs is that we're wanting to paint this new truck red with a black top. I cannot, in good conscience, agree with that. There are other things about the specifications that I disagree with. It was not an error or negligence upon the part of those who created it. I want to say that. It's just a disagreement in my years of experience with what I saw in the paper. I did not mean to mislead you, and I think if you buy the Emergency One truck, you'll be buying one heck of a truck. And it will last the city of Mexico for a lot of years. But because of that, the tradition and the specifications, I could not do it. I'm sorry if I misled anybody. I didn't. That was not my intention. But I have to go home and look at the guy in the mirror.
Is the color set in stone?
Apparently it is.
Chief, Bryce, would either one of you want to respond to that? On the color issue?
That's just a modernization to the trucks that a lot of departments have gone to, and when we were looking at trucks, we liked the ones that had the black tops.
Now, Chicago's done that for years, haven't they? That's all I have.
I have nothing at this time, Your Honor.
Okay. I just want to make a couple of comments that, I think that, I think Ron's suggestion was a good one. I think that we all want a better Mexico. We all want a Mexico where people want to do business, they want to live, they want to eat out, and they want to do their business. And it's been well stated that, and we all know that smoking is bad, it's harmful, and that secondhand smoke is bad, and we know that from years of listening to Surgeon General and so forth. We also know that the other side of the coin is people have a problem with more government regulation. They have a problem with people telling them what to do in their businesses. And so, as I open it up for public comment, which is next, I want people to be heard. But I would appreciate it if you wouldn't get up and repeat what we already know, okay? If you have something, you know, a new slant or something to educate us, great. On that note, our stated time limit per speaker at this point is 3 minutes, and Marcy's going to enforce that like she did with the other. And when you come forward, please state your name and address for the record, and keep your comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. So, whoever would like to speak, please step forward.
My name's Don Kofer. I live at 600 North Washington. Third big rain, third time the street's washed out. I know this is off the topic of the non-smoking. I'm sure you all are glad to hear that. Third time it's washed out, I wonder if we're getting anywhere on the grant where we could do something with curb and gutter perhaps.
Rita could respond if you'd like.
I mean,
pardon me?
Rita could respond to that if you'd like, Your Honor.
That'd be great.
As far as the community development block grant is concerned, it's on a competitive basis, which it would be next March before we could actually apply for the grant. Although we could actually apply for the grant by it being competitive for all other cities at 50,000 or less, we could apply, but we wouldn't know if we actually got it. It does come with a 51% LMI, low to moderate income qualification, which means that the entire street would have to actually participate in a survey to get that information. So, but it is something that could be applied, but it is a time limit off.
Would it help if the homeowners contributed, you know, paid an extra tax or however we got to go about getting this fixed? I mean, twice this week I haven't been able to use my sidewalk.
Well, at the time
Bottom
that
line,
we
I mean, you
apply
know.
for the grant, that could be something that could be written into the grant that the property owners would agree to pay a certain percent, which sometimes helps the grant.
I'm
But it
pretty
is
sure.
competitive, which we have no control over once we submit it.
Thank you for your time, really do appreciate it. I'm going to leave the no smoking thing alone.
If you want to just say, I'm in favor or I'm opposed, I mean, that's a response.
I'm not in
People
favor
can-
of being told what to do.
Okay.
I think the government has enough control of me as it is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Fiedler. I live at 1617 Meadow Lane here in Mexico. I had only recently heard about the movement to go smoke-free. So I started my own petition with signatures for support 18 days ago. I am very much against the smoking ban, just because I feel like it's the business owner's right to choose and the consumer's right to choose where they want to go. So since I started my petition 18 days ago, I myself have, and others who have helped me, have collected 676 signatures. That is more than half of the signatures that they've collected in several months, that from what I'm aware. So I just wanted to, again, inform you that this is not a black and white issue, which I'm sure you all are aware of. But it's a rights issue, and I just want everyone to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Hi, my name is Shannon Brown. I live at 143 Cody Drive in Troy, Missouri. I know that the last meeting you had, Denise Mikowski was here, and she handed you all packets about the e-cigarette issue. I know that they said that they wanted to include the e-cigarette in this ban, and I don't believe that it should be, for the fact that The newer e-cigarettes do not look like a cigarette. If you were to see one, you would know that it is not a cigarette. Also, the vapor from an e-cigarette is a water vapor. It is not a combustible vapor like a cigarette. It doesn't have all the carcinogens in it that a normal cigarette does. So I wish that you would, I mean, if you go forward with it, I wish you would consider not including the e-cigarettes in that. Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon.
My name's Thomas Fiedler. I live at 1617 Meadow Lane here in Mexico, and I wanted to address some of the things that were put into play by the Smoke Free Mexico group. One of the things that they were talking about was personal rights and personal responsibility. What they neglect to mention is that their proposal removes both of those. The gentleman said that he wanted everybody to be able to have their rights and use them responsibly. That's what we want too. We want people to responsibly choose what they're going to do, where they're going to go, and how they're going to do it. But we want them to have the choice. Again, we've been gathering signatures only 18 days versus the 3 months that they've had, and we've already got more than half. They also talk about how it only affects roughly 25% of the people, or it affects 78% of the people because only 25% roughly smoke. But the truth of the matter is, the people who don't smoke aren't being affected right now. They're living their lives day to day the way they want to. It's affecting that 25%. So it's the 25% that we're actually trying to take rights away from. Most of our group is non-smokers, so as you start to cut into those numbers, you're actually removing more and more of their supposed support that they start off with. They asked the question back in April on their Facebook page with their hundreds of followers of what places they would like to see go smoke-free. They had 0 responses. They've had responses on all their other posts. That one had 0 because nobody could think of a place. But they want to come in and tell people how they have to live. Their group is actually being spearheaded by a lady locally and a doctor locally, but they went outside to St. Louis, Jeff City, other large liberal cities to gather support to come into our small town. I don't have that kind of support and those kinds of resources. I just live here locally. I'm a veteran, and seeing as how yesterday was Memorial Day, and I've had friends who have passed away fighting for the rights, to protect the rights to freedom, and I played taps at a friend of mine, 19-year-old funeral, because he wanted people to have freedom. So that's what I would ask for everybody to keep in mind, is that that's what we're taking away, is when our young men and young women go overseas and they get killed one way or another, this is what they're dying for people to come up and say, we want to take away their freedoms. To me, that dishonors their death. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas.
John Lloyd, owner of Lloyd's Lot Company here in Mexico, located at 104 North Elmwood Drive. As I said last week, I'm a non-smoking facility. I do not smoke. I've never smoked. Mr. Nichols, I appreciate your comments. The problem seems to be resolving itself without government intervention. You know, as I brought along with me to the Smoke Free Rally, as I attended it for information purposes, at Westlakes for $7.59, you can have a no smoking sign. You can make your business no smoking for $7.59. No government ordinance required. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Steve Taylor from the Mexico Smoke Free Mexico Committee. I certainly appreciate Ron Lesch's comments. I think that if a group of us could get together and work out a solution to this problem, would be the ideal thing. I would say about smokers, or rather non-smokers, that non-smokers, of course, live 10 years longer than smokers because they have their first heart attack, stroke, and lung cancer 10 years earlier than the non-smoker. One advantage of the smoke-free laws is that it makes it inconvenient for smokers to smoke, and they therefore live longer, and many of them will quit. It said, I've recently read that 75% of smokers would like to quit for reasons it makes their food taste better, it tastes worse when they smoke, and they have more energy when they quit smoking. Every smoker I've talked to who quits actually tells me they feel a lot better. I know there are opposing opinions. I think that Ron Lesh has the right idea that we should sit down and try to work out some sort of strategy which would be satisfactory to both communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I don't know if you were allowed to or not, but I'm jumping ahead. A couple of bits of information just to share with you. Regarding the e-cigarettes, it was said that it's just water vapor.
Sorry, I need your name.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Stan Cowan with the University of Missouri Columbia School of Medicine. It is said that it's just water vapor. Actually, there are more in it than just water vapor. It is still relatively new science in studying this, but they have found that the emissions does contain at least 4 tobacco-specific nitrosamines, which are known human carcinogens. It has some heavy metals, notably cadmium and lead. It has ultrafine particulate matter, which can cause problems not only with the respiratory system, but the cardiovascular system. And, you know, it's maybe a safer product than combustible cigarettes, but it's not a safe product. So, you know, I just want to have you be very wary of giving a free pass to e-cigarettes out there. Some of the comments made from the council, you want to grow your business. I've looked at taxable sales data from the Department of Revenue for a number of communities, including those that have passed smoke-free ordinances, and we do not see a decline in number of restaurants and bars nor taxable sales for restaurants and bars. In fact, often they go up. We have a peer-reviewed study of 11 Missouri communities that had at least 2 years' worth of data at the time of the study. 3 of them had no change, 8 saw an increase in business. You don't want to tell owners what to do, but you know, government's already doing that. When you looked at fire department stuff here, when you have fire codes. One of the previous testifiers here, in fact, even told me that he feels it's business owners' right whether they ought to chain and padlock the fire exits or not. Government shouldn't be doing it. It's only the business owner that should make that decision. And here's where I make the plea. When it's for public safety, public health, for the common good, government does have an obligation to intervene. You need to balance. When is it unfair, obtrusive? When is it demanding that the public be served? And I think I'll conclude with that. And again, I'll give you 20 seconds leeway here.
Thanks, Stan.
With your 27 seconds left, I will make one comment. As far as the fire inspections, the city does fight the fires that those fire inspections try to shut down. So.
I used to be a member of NFPA years ago.
Billy Way, 816 Robin Hood Road. I'd just like to say, you know, we're talking about carcinogens and things that we're exposed to. Well, let's be honest, there's carcinogens everywhere. You're exposed to it every day, everywhere. The carpet that we're standing on right here has at least 16 known carcinogens. So I think that's kind of a moot point. The other thing I'd like to say is, you know, we're talking about government intervention and the role of government, and some statistics were thrown around, you know, about health. Well, statistically, it's been proven that you're likely to live longer if you're married, but you're not forcing people to get married. Why not? You're going to live longer. Let's do it. You know, probably by about 10 years, if I recall correctly. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Billy. Anyone else?
My name's Chuck Ball, and I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but I feel like in my heart I need to say something. And I believe cigarettes, alcohol, and eating is all addictive. I don't care what anybody says. It's like drinking. One drink's not enough, two's too much. That's the same way it is smoking. One cigarette's not enough, but two's too much. But I feel like that, like the woman said a while ago, you got grandkids coming up, you don't want them to smell your smoke and get smoke on you. And there's businesses here in town, you say that businesses here, by eliminating the smoking here, would hurt the business. I think it would help the businesses. You go to Walmart's, you go to church. Well, I noticed this place up here tonight, the city hall is clean, there's no smoke here. And you know what, we're all surviving an hour or two without smoking. So, and I, again, want to commend each and every one of you. No matter how we come out on this deal, you guys work hard. And I'll tell you what I want to do. Let's all give these guys applause for a job well done. That's all I got to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck. Anyone else?
Members of the council, I'm Louis Brooks. I live at 1333 Lexington in Mexico. I've spent 12 years on the city council here in the past. My main concern is the health hazard that we have in smoking. I am asthmatic. Smoke is harmful to me. I'm sure there are other persons that have asthma or other lung conditions that find that smoke is harmful to them.
Thank you, Louis. Anyone else? Okay, if not, I move we adjourn.
Second.
Yes, yes, yes.
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 Yes.